Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
But you're going to tell us more about the special properties of our minerals today, right?
This one is super special, yes.
I'm pretty awesome. So they're going to be magnetism, striations.
There you go.
Sorry about that, guys. Double refractions, effervescence. That sounds like something after, like some medicine or something. And fluorescence. Well, that sounds like some interesting things we're going to learn about. So magnetism. So some are magnetic.
Some are magnetic.
So how would you know if they're magnetic?
Well, probably the best way is to use a magnet.
So you just put a magnet next to it and some are magnetic.
Exactly.
Should we see if there's any rocks that do that?
We
I mean
should.
minerals that do that?
We should.
So we got a couple of minerals right here, and you've got something in your hand. That would be a magnet. Okay, so some are going to connect to the magnet, right? So
I hope so. Yay.
so that's
must be magnetic.
That must be magnetic. Is that magnetite?
It is magnetite.
Magnetite
Crazy.
is magnetic.
Crazy name for
That
it.
I can figure out in my head. Okay, and what about this other one? Now
Hematite.
that's that hematite we saw just in the last video.
It is. And if we
Yeah,
well, the magnetite really likes the magnet.
But it doesn't.
Hematite doesn't.
No, okay.
No.
But the other one does. Okay, so
Right.
some are magnetic and some are not. I'm guessing not many are magnetic.
Probably not.
Okay.
No, not
so,
a whole lot.
Magnetism. All right, so we just talked about magnetism, striations. I'm working on it, guys. All right, striations. What's striations? Is it lines? Looks like lines
It's
to me.
lines, yeah. It's not anything super exciting except it's lines.
So there's lines inside of the mineral. So some have striations and some don't.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. All right. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Double refraction. Now, that looks pretty cool, that image right there. Should we... So let's take a look at what that looks like with like a real mineral.
It is neat.
All right, we've got a cool mineral right here. It's a clear mineral, and you got the word GMO. So what are we going to do with this?
Well, if you notice, when we place it over the word
Like
GMO...
repeats it.
Yeah, it's double.
It's not just GMO, it's GMO. So that's called double refraction.
Double refraction.
Okay, so some minerals do that. It has to be a clear one.
It have to be clear,
And
absolutely.
then it won't be anything else.
Right.
Okay. Hey, look, we have another clear one, and when you go through it, it doesn't do the double deal. So that's not going to be double refraction.
Nope.
So the next one we'll talk about is effervescence with HCl. So HCl is hydrochloric acid. We learned about that in chemistry land. And we're going to then put some acid on top of these, and it's going to effervesce. Now, effervesce means?
Effervesce means bubbling.
Bubbling. Okay, so it'll
bubbling
bubble.
and fizzing.
Because, folks, what that means, if you guys remember, is that carbonate will react with hydrochloric acid to make carbon dioxide. That's the get bubblingness. So it's actually going to be something that has carbonates in it. We'll talk a little bit more in a next video. So let's look at this. So we have two minerals, and we're going to add some hydrochloric acid to each of them and see which one effervesces. Remember, effervesces is when you see bubbles. It's a gas being given off. It may be a little hard to see because of the clarity of it. But here, I don't see any bubbles. Okay, that's the halite. But here is the calcite. I don't know if you can see, but if you look carefully, you should be able to see bubbles forming. That's effervescing. One is fluorescence. That sounds like a really cool thing.
It is. Well, fluorescent lights.
Yeah.
They give off light.
Okay, so let's take a look at fluorescence.
Okay.
Okay, so we have another mineral here. What's this one called?
This is chalcedony.
Chalcedony. We're taking something called fluorescence, and we've got this like cool like blue thing deal next to it.
Yeah, that's ultraviolet. That's a black light, ultraviolet light.
Ultraviolet black light. So it should like light up, fluorescence, but it isn't lighting up. Why not?
Probably we need the main lights off.
Oh, so we need to get it dark in the room.
Dark.
Okay. All right, let's make it dark. Okay.
So if you look close, that looks a lot different than it did in
Yeah.
regular light.
I can kind of see like purple streaks, and there's some like shiny things that are fluorescing.
And it's orange and green.
Yeah, orange and green.
Not gray like it was.
Yeah, because it was a gray rock, and now
Right.
it's kind of very different, isn't it?
It is.
Cool. So fluorescence, here's kind of another image of what it might look like, right? You can see how they kind of light up. Some of them really light up in the different lights.
That's a lot more impressive than
the one we saw. Yeah, that's okay, but hopefully we'll have some time to play with some of those in class. And then texture. Texture is just kind of how it feels, right?
It does. If you pick up a piece of graphite, it feels very smooth and
Yeah.
greasy is how they describe it.
I would say it's greasy, yeah. And then some are rough, some are ragged, some are soapy. So they have different textures, and
You
that's
do.
just you got to just feel it.
You just got to feel it. Yeah.
Because ultimately, guys, what you're going to do is we're going to give you a bunch of minerals. You have to figure out which one they are, given a key, but it's going to know all these different properties to determine which one is which. And then this last one is density and specific gravity. What's this?
Density, if you remember from chemistry, is mass divided by.
Yeah, density is
Volume.
mass over volume, right?
Right.
So, and I know something that's more dense sinks, and something that's less dense floats within each other, right? So if we think of a classic thing filled with water, water has a density of 1.0 grams per cubic centimeter, sort of the standard. So if it's more than one, it'll sink, and if it's less than one, it'll float. And some are
Exactly.
high density. You might sort of
Yeah.
think of them as light versus heavy, but that's not really quite true, because of course you could have a ton of a super low dense something, it would just be really big. So people ought to get those mixed up, by the way. So is this something you can measure?
It is. You can find the mass with your balance of your
All
mineral.
right, so you just weigh it, right? Put it
Right.
on the scale, and then the volume. How do you find the volume? These rocks aren't like the shape of a nice, pretty,
No
you know,
cubes, no
cylindrical
spheres, no
stuff.
cylinders.
They're like weird shapes,
They are.
right? So what do we do?
Well, if you remember that dropping something in water raises the water level.
Oh, so if this is at 10 milliliters or something like that, and then I put a rock in it, my funny looking rock, and it rises to 13, then the volume is 3.
Must be.
It's like as if you've ever taken a bath, guys. Hopefully you have. Is that when you hop in the bathtub, what happens to the water level? It rises. By how much? By how big you are. By your volume. At least part of the volume that's in the water.
Exactly.
All right. And, so what else did we learn here? Okay, we've talked about this, I guess, right? It's the ratio of mass, but some are different. Gold! Whoa, is that like a big number?
Gold, that's a very big number.
That's grams per centimeter. So that's super duper high.
Yes.
Pyrite is, wait. Isn't pyrite like fool's gold?
That's its name. That's its common name.
So it looks like gold, but it ain't gold.
It ain't gold.
And the way you can tell is by their density. One's going to be super dense and one is not. So you take it, do the whole test, mass divided by volume, and if it's 19, you
It's
struck
gold.
gold!
That's right.
And if it's 5.2, it's just fake.
Well, there are a couple other special characteristics
Oh, yeah?
that you can look at.
Okay, like what?
Odor is one.
Odor. So you like stick your nose in the rock.
Stick your nose in the rock. Have you ever
Okay.
smelled sulfur?
Yes. All right, I
There's your
smell it.
sulfur.
Nasty sulfur smell.
Very distinct. And another characteristic which we probably won't do ourselves, but is taste.
Taste. You want me to stick my tongue on a rock?
Yeah, it's okay. Halite is salt, so it should therefore
All right.
taste salty.
Salty. Yeah.
It's okay, kids. It's,
I just ate a
salt is
rock.
antibacterial, so it'll
That's
be
good.
fine.
It's salt. So it tasted salty. It's very salty, by the way.
And if you licked this, it would not taste salty.
No, not salty. Maybe dirty. Who knows? But it wasn't salty.
But we can use other properties to identify. We
All
don't
right.
have to use
So that's the list of properties. And in
Yes.
class, we're going to have to spend some time identifying real minerals.
We are.
That sounds like fun.
It will be fun.
Let's do it. We'll see you in class.